All right, so we're live. Oh my goodness, we're actually here and doing this. Hello, hello, everyone. Hi, Alexis.
Hello, everyone, and hello, Urania. I hope you're having a great
Yeah.
day.
Yes, it's been like a really busy day. I don't know if, well, we weren't here last week because I was traveling and I was very ambitious. I was planning to show up and do the Dream live stream last week, but it was literally the day after flying and traveling. And I just
Yeah,
had to honor organic energy. And so
absolutely.
I'm still here at my mother's house visiting, hence the background. And so, but I'm really excited to be here. Like it's been busy, but it's all good vibes and good feels. So I couldn't stay away too long from these dream discussions. So thank you, Alexis, for your patience with everything and just being like very supportive and just, yeah, holding it down. And thank you, everyone, watching that just, hold space for that and took a little bit of a break. So thank you.
You have to go with what feels natural and like right, like go with your intuition. If you're tired, you gotta rest. That's just you
Absolutely.
just you just have to do that. It's not nothing good's gonna come out of pushing yourself when you're not
Yeah.
feeling great, you know?
Yeah. So if you are watching live, definitely feel free to say hello in the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from, especially if you're a new viewer or you've been watching and you just want to say hi and you haven't said hi before. We would love to connect with you and learn of where you're tuning in from. And so tonight, our discussion is going to be about the people that show up in your dreams, the different types. And of course, we're going to share our experiences. And if you have any questions or comments, or you have your own experiences, please feel free to leave them in the chat. And one of the things I do want to also share and just to put out there that I have been with these dream live streams is that we would love to connect with you. We would love to share your dreams. If you're into that and feel inspired to do so, you can share your dream via email at connect@uraniauniverse.com, or you can post your dream on my private forum, which is on my website, uraniauniverse.com. We will always, honor your privacy and share it anonymously. And so, yeah, we would love to connect with you. And if you're feeling ambitious and you feel inspired to show up live with us here, we can definitely do that. We can set that up. So, whatever you feel comfortable with, if you want to like join into the conversation a bit more, a bit deeper, definitely take us up on those opportunities to do so. All right. So Alexis was really excited to have this discussion. We actually planned this like 2 weeks ago. So this was going to be the dream topic that we were going to share last week, but we took a bit of a break. And we've had this discussion before about dream people and dream people. When I started hearing Alexis talk about interactions like with people in her dreams during like lucid dreams, right? Lucid dreaming, that was something I was so fascinated with. That was probably the biggest motivation for lucid dreaming because before once I like started on this intentional dream work, I I didn't feel some sort of desire, like a strong desire to do lucid dreaming. And I've done lucid dreaming before, but it just, honestly, it was like really a lot. I felt like a lot of energy and a lot of work to it. And it's not necessarily, I feel like there's not a lot of work, especially when you get into the practice of doing it, which that's a different conversation. But what the biggest thing for me was that I really wanted to talk to the people in my dreams because they were people that I actually knew, which we'll talk about those experiences later. And so we've had a conversation already about this topic, and we're going to go a little bit deeper tonight and talk about the different types, the basic personality types of the dream people, aka dream natives, aka dream figures, and such. And so you want to lead us in, Alexis, on these different types of dream natives, dream people?
Yeah, absolutely. Dream people are a super important aspect to our dream realm. We can interact with them and learn more about ourselves and the world that we're in. Also, it's just entertaining and fun. it's a different type of socializing because you're socializing within your unconscious. Um, so the book, A Field Guide to Lucid Dreaming, calls them dream natives. And I like that because they are native to the dream realm and they don't necessarily have to be in human form. So saying like dream people, it's a lot broader than what the word actually is. So I like the word dream native because it highlights the fact that something you can talk to a flower, you can talk to the dream itself, you can like different things have their own like sentience within your dream that you can interact with. Um, so that's really interesting. And we're going to talk about the three different types of dream people that we encounter. So there are three, as I mentioned. So we have the first one, which is the sleepwalker, which is a low awareness. I like to call them like our dream NPCs. Like in a game, like you go up to them and they kind of just aren't really there. They're just kind of there to be like props, I guess.
They're kind of, yeah, I was going to say they're kind of like a part of the scene.
Yeah, they're a part of the
yeah.
background. Like,
yeah.
And then we have the friend type of dream native has like a medium awareness, so they interact more with you, they're more logical when they talk, there's more of like a basic connection, and they can kind of like it's just there's more interaction, there's more there. And then the third type is the guide, and this is high awareness. The guide is a very strong presence. It shifts the dream. It sharpens and strengthens the dream in that moment when you're interacting with them, and it feels something otherworldly. And there's a lot of theories behind what that could be, but it's interesting nonetheless. So I'm gonna just go into the sleepwalker dream native, which, as I said, they have low awareness and they're more like NPCs. They kind of bob around in the background of the dreams, kind of lost in their own world. And but you can interact with them. They're just not going to give you much to work with. It's going to be really random information and kind of it's kind of like babbling almost, or things that don't make sense, words that are just being spoken rather than like actual sentences. One of the cool theories about the sleepwalker type of dream native is that it could be other people within the collective conscious who are connected into their own dreams. So they're there, but they're not in they're not in the dream with you like consciously. It's just they're there from the collective conscious shared dream realm, or slipping in and slipping out. I thought that was an interesting aspect, and the book considers them, if you're thinking about roles in a movie, they're like the background characters in the movie. So I don't know if you want to go first with kind of sharing your experience with this type of character, or type of native in your dream realm. And then if you feel comfortable with that, I'll go after you.
Yeah, so I'll also share an example, or actually a perspective, just to add on another layer to that so this is coming from the book Lucid Dreaming: Gateway to the Inner Self, by Robert Wagner. We've talked about this book before in other episodes. And so his I guess you could say, definition or characterization of this particular dream figure is that he also describes this as these particular figures, entities, they represent some sort of idea, thought form, expectation, or emotion. And I thought that was really interesting, like an interesting perspective, because he also gave an example. And this example I love because it was an example about having sex in dreams. And so I was like, oh, that's interesting. He would present this perspective, but he was talking about how there was a dream and there was a lady there and he was having sex in his dream, and was lucid, and he had this like thought that, okay, like, is this actually a person? Is this a real person that I'm having sex with? And I don't know what it was. I don't actually recall the exact, like, phase, or, just the thought process that he had, but he came to this realization that, these figures can be some sort of thought form. So what he did was really interesting. In the midst of having sex with this lady, he said aloud, all thought forms must disappear. Like, he basically made this command in the middle of this
Ooh.
dream, and she disappeared like right away. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. That's interesting. And that kind of sent him, for a loop where he was like, okay, like what, okay, so what is this? Right. What are these dream people? And he had other instances. Actually was in the same dream. And I think it was like there were two more instances where a lady would appear, underneath him to have sex. Like, there was like some sort of mission, like purpose of this. And he would say it again. Like, and I think when it came to the third one, it was before he didn't even get out, disappear, and she disappeared. So that took him into like a deeper layer of, contemplation of what is a dream figure, right?
Yeah.
So, and that was like, there was no, I guess he sort of got a sense that there was no awareness or minimal awareness. This was just something here. Like, and I think in the Field Guide to Lucid Dreaming, they mentioned that the sleepwalker is somewhat of like an extra, right? Which I feel
Yep.
like if there's someone having sex with you, then that's like kind of more than an extra. So it could be in between the friend and the sleepwalker, so to speak.
Yeah, I think it's
But I thought that was
spectrum.
interesting. Yeah, there's
Like,
definitely
these
a
are just the
spectrum. Yeah.
basic breakdowns, but there's definitely a spectrum. I mean, we're not even getting into like nightmare aspects of the dream people
Yeah, that's
today.
true.
It's just like this is an extensive conversation, of course. But I like that example. I mean, I've never tried that technique before, where I command
Yeah, I thought that was really
the
interesting.
mind made up thoughts and stuff to disappear, to see what
Yeah.
it's almost. And it's funny because he could have chosen to indulge in the like the play aspect of lucid
Yeah.
dreaming, like the
Yeah.
pleasure
Yeah.
aspect.
To have, yeah.
But he clearly wasn't
But he was
interested in that. He was
curious. Yeah.
interested in what it was, why he was having that, what it was about, and the dream people or the dream person he was interacting with. So I find that very
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. And I think he mentioned that he did that like at other times, where just in dreams, like you mentioned too, where like the dream people don't necessarily have to be people. They can be,
Yeah.
anything. And so I know he mentioned to making that command again, like all thought forms must disappear. And, like there were other things. Like it wasn't just like, okay, I'm, talking to this person.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty interesting.
No, that
As
was
far
awesome.
as like, I can't really bring to mind because I'm not like an avid lucid dreamer, and I'll be like
Mm-hmm.
completely transparent. Since the dream circle, I haven't really lucid dreamt at all, and I've been just so busy, and that's something I've been thinking about too, where like the level of presence for myself, everyone's different. So I think that like I'm always on the precipice. Like I'll wake up from a dream and can tell that like there was some consciousness there. Like I wasn't fully out of it, but I haven't had the ability to like make commands or explore or do things like that. And so when it comes to the sleepwalker archetype, personality type, I cannot necessarily recall. Like I can see them in my mind, but I haven't really had, any moments where I would engage them to,
Mm-hmm.
share anything about that.
Yeah.
Oh, Jace is here. Jace says, "Good evening, ladies."
Hey,
And
Jace.
then he comments, "Hi, Jace." He comments, or when you tell them they are just a dream and they question you and say, "Oh, are you what I am dreaming?" That's where I feel you are interacting with another being. Okay, yeah, We're on the first
Yeah, yeah,
level,
yeah.
although we touched on that, but that's like, yeah, that's definitely
Yeah,
a good
well, it's
point.
the
I've
otherworldly
I've
aspect
definitely,
of it,
yeah,
definitely.
I haven't experienced that. I've read that. So, okay, cool. So do you recall any encounters with a sleepwalker, having conversations with them?
I definitely can have, I remember my sleepwalkers, but they aren't really like, I don't bother with them too much. So for
Right.
example, the other night I had a dream, and at one point in the dream, I was flipping off my sisters and my mom from, like, we were on disconnected decks that were floating in the void. And I was on one deck, my relative, like my family was on the other. And like we do stuff like that, like we call each other assholes and whatnot, flip each other off. It's like more of like a playful thing than it is anything else. But as I was doing it, there was this group of people that walked by. And the one girl was more of like the medium awareness. But the two girls that were with
Mm-hmm.
her were completely like NPC level, not contributing, not making any change in emotion, not doing anything but following this person. So that is kind of like an example of what
Mm-hmm.
my sleepwalker encounters tend to be. Now
Mm-hmm.
I could interact with them more, and I probably should. But I tend to interact more with the other types of dream natives. I feel that I get more out of it, but I do try to be nice to that type of dream native. The
Yeah.
book actually recommends that. They're like, just because they're background characters doesn't mean you like should be mean or anything. Like, just be
Well,
nice.
that
And
was like a big message for in the lucid dreaming gateway to the inner self, where he mentions that he gave like 2 points when it comes to interacting with the dream figures. And he says that what you were saying, like you should kind of treat them with respect.
yes,
And,
respect is a good word.
yeah, and you kind of meet them where they're at. So his first point was, he said, since some dream figures have a type of awareness, you should approach them on that basis. So basically, not as like kind of assuming they're kind of in the middle ground, and then based on their responses. So, right, if you go to engage with them, we're engaging with them with respect, not like they're, like someone you can command, or they're like, you're in my domain, so I have rulership over you. That's not the way to approach them. Just
No.
approach them, like they have their own sovereignty. And then based on their responses, you can determine what type of further interaction seems warranted. So if they are a sleepwalker, then you know how to approach that. If they're a friend, you know how to approach that. If they're a guide, you know how to, like, you'll get more information via the approach. But if you do go in, I feel, with some sort of sense of, authority, so to speak, or just like not with any respect, you'll
Yeah.
receive that. Like what Jace mentioned too, like, being like, oh, you're just in a dream, or, saying these kind of things, which is interesting for me. I'm the kind of person that would just experiment with that in a respectful way. Like maybe, I would be like, hey, you're in a dream, like having, these kind of, conversations. But yeah, doing it in a respectful way. I think that's key, because you're going to get more out of that than if were just kind of, not friendly.
Yeah, and honestly, it's a reflection of your own character if you're purposely going into a dream to be nasty to the manifestations in your head. Like, it kind of just says something about how you might be feeling about yourself internally, and that might be something you need to focus on if it is.
Right. And Jay says, so Jay says, oh yeah, I have, but the dream fell apart because I tested them. So I'm assuming he's talking about, going up to them and, I guess, interacting with them possibly.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, I do find it interesting that sleepwalkers sound close to the dreamwalkers, which are those dreamwalkers are those who can enter others' dreams, which you mentioned that, like, so I
Yes.
don't think you were on the in the chat yet, or watching, the live yet, Jace, but Alexis did mention how it's speculated that the sleepwalkers can be other people, you know, from other, like other dreamers from like the collective consciousness, so to speak. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I was saying that there's a theory that they are other dreamers, and even though they're physically in your dream, they're wrapped up in their own dream. So they're not
Mm-hmm.
like communicating and interacting as much because they're focused
Yeah,
elsewhere.
that's so fascinating.
It is fascinating. I like it blows my mind.
Yeah. So with the friend, what one of the things too that stood out to me with the friend personality type,
Mhm.
and again, just to recall that that's kind of like the middle ground where there is the awareness is high. What I'd
Yeah.
like is that, or the awareness is medium normal, sorry.
Yeah.
And so what I liked about that is that, or what they said in the book is that they could be really good allies in overcoming a
Oh,
nightmare.
absolutely.
So like
Absolutely.
I haven't had any nightmares in which I became lucid, but
Mhm.
I could absolutely see that, especially in the other book, Lucid Dreaming Gateway to the Inner Self. They mention when you are in, like when you're lucid in a dream, to go towards some sort of conflict, like, or if there's
Mm.
some figure that you're feeling weird about, or like there's a conflict happening in the dream, like actually going towards that, because that can help you to that can reveal some things to you about your own psyche, some challenges and struggles that you're having, as well as, you know, being able to, you know, help you understand and move over the obstacle by engaging with them to see what their response would be.
Absolutely. And I mean I encounter more of the friend, like the guide level I encounter maybe once a dream, where the friend type I encounter more times throughout the dream.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the friend, and I like the friend type. I find them very comforting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'll go into that after I kind of just go into this a little. So, like you had mentioned, yeah, it's a little more interactive. You can, there's more, they usually come to you and talk to you. They usually
Mm-hmm.
pick up on what's going on and start conversations and ask questions. And like you said, they are fantastic allies, which, you know, I have experienced personally. And in
Yeah.
the field guide to lucid dreaming, they consider this bracket of dream native to be like the supporting characters in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a couple of examples I can give. One, I'll go back to that dream that I had been talking about earlier, where it was the one girl who was considered like a friend, where the other two were considered more of like the sleepwalkers. Now, this this particular dream person saw me doing something that to somebody who didn't know what I was doing would take into offense. So they had like a natural reaction to me doing something they thought was directed at them. And
Mm-hmm.
I had gone down from the deck to where they were. And I simply just explained my situation. And I was like, look, I wasn't trying to offend you. I'm so sorry. Like, I was joking with my family who are right over there. You can see, like, you were in the line of distance between me and them. I said there was no animosity. I didn't mean to be insulting. And they were like, "Oh, that's fine." And the mood of the dream kind of shifted. And I like looked at her because she was probably like 17 to 21. And I was like, and then she kind of felt bad that she reacted. And I kind of was just like, "Oh, come here, baby girl," and gave her a hug. And like
Mm-hmm.
everything was fine. So that was like a more of like a friend type interaction. There was more
And
awareness.
this dream person, like it wasn't a person that you know in
No,
real life. It was just like
nope.
someone random. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and I can describe what she looked like. She had like really really curly blonde hair, and she was um, a little bigger, and she was wearing like I want to say it was like a peachy tone t-shirt with like tan jeans and a brown belt. Um, but
Did she seem like modern, like from like, you know, this
I,
current time or
I actually don't know. because it was a
Okay.
it was a type of outfit that was, it's not timeless, but it could have been anywhere from like the 1970s to modern day
Okay.
with just the
Gotcha.
type of,
Yeah.
but the energy of the dream shifted with the interactions. Whereas like
Yeah.
interacting with the NPC types, there's no shift in energy. It's
That's a
like
good point. Yeah.
it doesn't really do anything. But the other aspect, that the allies aspect, I really love. And I've had personal experiences with this. The most recent one I had was I was in a very anxious dream. I wasn't having a nightmare necessarily, but I was anxious. I had been in this restaurant, this local restaurant in real life, but it was on the inside, it was laid out completely different. And I was working there, bussing tables and taking orders and wait. Um, and the building had burned down and they just reopened it. But the building was not completed. It was like really, uh, it was just so undone, and there was just random mismatching furniture everywhere. And like I was the only staff, and this like older gentleman who was running it was like yelling at me to seat people and wash things and do these other things. And I ended up walking into the bathroom and I was like trying to take a breath, but the bathroom was disgusting. And like you can't really
Mm,
calm yourself down in a nasty bathroom.
yeah. Yeah.
So I ended up leaving the bathroom and going behind the counter where like the pie dishes would be in the cat whatever it's called that are at diners.
Mm-hmm.
And I went behind the counter and I threw like the rag I had on the floor in the corner, and there was a man who was typing at a computer where like across from me. So I walked over to him and I was like, "Hey, like do you need, like I changed my mood, your customer service voice type of thing. I was like, "Hey, do you need anything?" And it ended up being my favorite author. And
Mm-hmm.
he said that he I wanted a slice of pie and a coffee, and then like started making jokes and cheering me up, and we got like goofy with each other, like just like a fun conversation. And
Mm-hmm.
it lifted my mood completely and helped me get out of that dream completely. It was like the dream kind of went white
Mm-hmm.
and it was just the two of us, and then I woke up.
So would you say that's like, so that seems kind of in between friend and a guide, right?
Well, I
So,
think for me that this is just a friend, because I don't think I'm dreaming. Like I don't think I'm making connection with him. What I think it is
mm-hmm.
that he is a somebody I look up to and find comfort in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was a manifestation
Yeah.
that I gave myself to help calm myself down.
Yeah.
It could have been an in between. But the
Well, I'm
reality of the
just kind of
situation,
thinking of like how I've shared recently about Kim Kardashian,
yeah.
and where it's like I don't feel I'm pretty sure I'm not connecting with her higher self, but I feel that like after
You don't
recent
know.
dreams, right? I don't know
You don't know.
actually.
That's the craziest
But
thing.
after
It's
like
like I
recent
can't just
dreams,
message this person and be like, "Hey, were you in this
no, I'm
dream
like, what are
last
the
night?"
odds? Yeah, I'm like, what are like and it's so often. Like I know after talking about this now, I'm gonna have a dream. But it's like after a recent dream I had with her, it felt like it was like a spirit guide or something, like just being very playful, like having
It
fun.
could
Like they're
be.
showing up as this. And I think also with, I just want to say everyone's dream space is different. And you kind of, like for me, it's rare that I will see anyone, like the people in my dream are always people that I know. And through this lucid dream work of interacting and engaging and having conversations with the dream figures, I'm I learned that this isn't necessarily that person who they're like, it's just like it's an avatar, which is like
Yeah.
it was fascinating to me at first. And then I went in these ways where I was like, oh, like, so this isn't really that person. And it kind of brought this feeling of comfort in a weird way, because especially when it came to like one of my exes, where I'm like, okay, it's just like, that's just kind of a representation for whatever reason. My psyche is like, creating this avatar. And then like recently, you know, I've started to feel a little bit annoyed at times, and also like almost like kind of sad, not necessarily sad, but it's weird because it's like, all right, it feels empty. Like there's an emptiness there. And
Yeah.
I feel like that was because of the interaction I had with the dream person who was my ex, and it wasn't like them.
Yeah,
And I was like,
absolutely.
so it created this weird emptiness feeling, like there was, and it felt like, honestly, that was like a sleepwalker. Now that I think about it, that approach to when I engaged with him, well, I couldn't ever actually engage with him. And when I think about when he showed
That's
up and
interesting.
following that, there was kind of like this lifeless kind of energy. And it was like, it felt like, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, that was kind of a sleepwalker type
Maybe
vibe.
you wanted it to be more than just the NPC. And
Oh
that's
yeah, I
why
definitely did. Yeah.
and that's why it felt empty because
Yeah.
they
No,
weren't
I
like
definitely
that
did.
particular thing wasn't going to do anything for you
Yeah.
and move on to
Yeah.
bigger and better things.
So that's something I want to look into more, and I had planned on it, but just because of timing, I didn't get a chance to research that specifically. But I know there are instances where, like say from Jung's perspective, he theorized that every aspect of the dream is a reflection or some sort of symbolism of our own psyche.
Yeah.
And so I can see that in some ways, but then also there have been like so many examples of people having dreams about people they know, and that it was actually more relevant to the circumstances of the people that they know. And this actually happened this morning. I had one of my friends, shout out, well, okay, I told her I make this anonymous. So she had well, maybe she knew what we were discussing tonight, but she doesn't really remember her dreams often. And she sent me a voice message this morning saying how she was like, for someone who doesn't remember dreams, like she had a very vivid dream of a friend of hers that she talks to every so often. And her friend was like in the corner, like she saw her over there, like in the distance in the corner, like she seemed really sad and upset, and she went over to her. And when she went to engage with her, and she wasn't lucid or anything, but when she went to engage with her, her friend just started like crying, like bawling. And that's what all she pretty much remembers. Like, I don't know if she woke up after that, but then she reached out to her friend, and her friend was like, is having a really hard time with her mother. And it's like she's in the midst of like, almost like damage control. So it was like that
Absolutely.
dream felt like it was some sort of, guidance to reach out to your friend to like lend some sort of support and be like, hey, I'm here. I see you. Like, so
Yeah.
there's like, that's clearly,
Well, it was like
that's
she was
not,
picking
yeah.
up it was like she was a radio picking up her friend's
Yeah.
signal.
Yeah.
And
So it's
like
like, yeah, there's different.
it's interesting because it's like, is that something that we can do even with people who aren't necessarily someone we know, or is it just someone we have a connection with? That's a very interesting. That's interesting because I definitely have had those before, but I hadn't even thought about that aspect.
Yeah. Yeah. So
But
that's why
we
I'm
can
always
go.
curious. Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely should go deeper into these topics, like
Hmm.
because an hour, it only you can only put so much
Yeah.
into an hour.
There's so much here. There's so much
But
here.
I find it very interesting, that like my dream comfort person or guide or whatever has been consistent, like Kim K has been with you with your,
Hmm. Hmm.
consistency. There's something really interesting about the consistency. And it does make me
Yeah.
think, like, is there a gray, that scale between the friend and the guide that is intertwined? Like, I didn't think about it like that until, like, I was
Hmm.
thinking about the fact that, when I am with this very, like, So the one of my favorite authors I have in my dreams, not like often, but they're significant when they are, Neil Gaiman. And each time I've had
Mhm.
him in my dream, I've learned like a pretty significant lesson in my dream.
Yeah.
So that's interesting too. Um, like when you think about the dreams where, Kim's in your lucid, significant messages have come through for those
Hmm.
dreams, right?
Yeah, and they kind of all have the same underlying theme about confidence and career, which actually makes sense because that's one of the things that I've been fascinated, with her, or fascinated by her, is that like she's a single mom, she has 4 kids, and like, yes, she has a lot of support, but also she does so much,
Yeah.
and she's very successful, and I've been, following her since the very beginning, and she's someone that I've looked at as an astrologer. I've looked at her astrology, like all of her timing things, and so that's someone that I've looked at as far as like, because she's very disciplined and like devoted to the things she's doing. So yeah, I've kind of looked up to her in some aspects of like career, and just like even her confidence and how she presents herself in so many different like areas that are all like just,
Oh,
with law and
absolutely.
beauty and like TV. And now, yeah. So there's so many things that people are like, oh, you're not gonna, like, they've really kind of downplayed her, and she just doesn't care and has overcome all of like the negative talk about her. And um so it's interesting how that is exactly like her showing up in my dreams is kind of like a guide, in a
Yeah.
sense. Like I get guide energy from her.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's really
No, I
interesting.
absolutely get that because I get similar things from, Neil Gaiman. Like he does so much. He has created so much art within his lifetime. And, I'm really connected to art and creating in that way and writing and whatnot. So to see just how much,
Mhm.
not only passion, because you don't get to where like they are without some sort of passion driving them forward. And I feel like I have a lot of fear that hinders my passion. So
Mhm.
seeing people who are similar to me in certain aspects, and seeing the drive and the commitment and how much progress they've made and what they've put out and the work that they do and the confidence that they have to be able to at least get to where they are is
Yeah.
admirable.
Yeah.
And I do find that I'm lacking the confidence. I'm lacking I'm very fearful of both success and failure, which is an effort that I'm constantly trying to put into.
Mhm.
So it
Yeah.
definitely makes sense having that guiding energy. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I
Wow.
like that. So that's it brings us back to that main point too. You mentioned, I also mentioned how, or I gave an example of how, we titled this Dream People, but the roles of dream people, it goes beyond it being, it doesn't have to even be one, it doesn't have to be an actual person. So it could be a dream figure or a dream native, so to speak. And then it also can be, it's just like looking at how this particular symbol, or,
Yeah.
physical manifestation in the dream, what that represents for you.
Yeah.
And it can even not necessarily even be like a person, but it can manifest as a person, so to speak, as
Mm-hmm.
like, I can say, okay, like Kim Kardashian is like my spirit guide. There's a spirit guide disguised as Kim Kardashian. Or it could be just the nature of my thought process, my thought form of success, of, being a mom and being an entrepreneur and all of that. That whole thought form and everything that encompasses that can manifest as Kim Kardashian, right? So it could be as, I mean, that's in a way that's kind of complex, but then it's also kind of simple,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
And
it's
so
yeah.
yeah, there's so many ways, and it's so, this is why like the dream space never ceases to amaze me, because it's like,
Exactly.
yeah.
It's so interesting, and it really is a scale. It really is a scale, and I almost have to remind myself that, because like I'm in my head, right? I'm like, oh well, this interaction was clearly like this level, but just having the conversation with you and bringing that to light, no, it's definitely something more than that. Maybe not quite to guide level in my head, but something around that
Yeah. So the different,
area.
yeah, there's the gray scale. And I like that Robert Wagner, he definitely, presented in his like chapter on this specific topic, our dream people simply thought forms. So, and that's something like I feel there's not really like we'll never know for sure. It's only our
Nope.
speculation and our experiences because, like I said, it could be a spirit guide masking as, someone, or it could be literally just my thought and ideas about something. And that's the beauty of it. And that just even perceiving it or just observing it as like, okay, this could be a thought form, this could be a thought form, really also, it kind of like validates that theory of, you know, everything in our dream kind of representing an aspect of ourselves. Right. And so I can also play that I can make this like claim with my friend's dream who had a dream about a friend. And while there was some like, very direct guidance and message, that uh that dream and like the feeling and the impulse, the like inspired action that came forth from that could also been what she experienced in the dream could have been her own thought form because her message, like her own interpretation or reflection on the whole experience was that like this is another like validation of like my gifts and like how I do have this knowingness or my connection to the divine, and I really need to just own it and honor that. So that realization after the dream and the interaction with the friend all came back to validating her strength, her gift. So again, that's showcasing that it is like, or it is a part of your psyche, like something's being communicated to you or like being, showcased to you in your dream, even though it's about someone else, it still comes around
Yeah.
and it's about you at the end of
Yep.
the day. So that's just like, that just came through right now. And I'm like, wow, okay, I see how it's all like, it's all intertwined.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think it's more complex than we can understand. And I think it'll
Mhm.
always be too complex than we can understand, because it is something that is going on in our own unconscious. Like,
Yeah.
unless they come up with some crazy technology to be able to connect to it, which I think that I've seen. Oh yeah, there was this movie called oh my gosh, it's with Nicolas Cage, it's new. And they end up coming up with a like almost like an earpiece that you wear that allows you to kind of connect in your dream with other people, and like almost like a
Oh, wow.
VR, but like for your dreams, it's like actually in your head. And then they go on to like how it turns it, like it really quickly can turn into a slippery slope, so you end up
Oh, yeah.
getting like
Yeah, I could
commercials
see that.
in your dreams, like. And
Uh,
it's I don't think I would particularly want to partake in that aspect of it, despite my
mhm.
curiosity, though I don't know. But it's so interesting, it's so
Yeah.
mysterious, it's a well of new information all the time, and it's always just different with the energies and the environment and everything. It's so interesting.
Yeah.
um
No, I love that. And it also kind of scares me because I see it. It's like then you get into the whole sci-fi, situation where it's like I can kind of see that happening in the future, but then I don't know. Sometimes some of these things that they're like, oh, we could do this and that, and like they come up with something completely different. Like, I
mhm.
mean, poor example, maybe, but like flying cars where they, there was so much like speculation of we could do this, this, and that. And like we went down a different route.
Oh yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, that would be, ooh, I don't know. You know how I'm with technology and like
Yeah.
sleeping with things. And so I'm just like,
Hmm.
oh, I would be on the sidelines and just like seeing how that unfolds.
Yeah, see how it plays out,
But
because
yeah,
it's you're gonna have its peak and then its drop, and then you can like
yeah,
decide what you want to do after it's taken
yeah,
its course, and you can observe everyone experiencing it. But no,
yeah,
that it's so interesting. But I'll maybe take this as a gateway to just go right into the guide. Yeah.
yeah.
So the guide is considered high awareness. So they come across knowing much more than we do, and they carry a lot of important information, and they guide you with advice. Their presence is extremely powerful, and
Mm-hmm.
you'll find that like even if your lucid dream is already pretty sharp, interacting with these types of dream natives will enhance that, make it a stronger, sharper dream where you're
Yeah,
just
like you kind of
it's a
get the message.
yeah,
Like once you
exactly.
interact with them. You're like,
And I feel like it's like their commute, like I describing the feeling of interacting with a someone I would consider or something I would consider a guide or otherworldly, the energy is just completely different. You feel you like you know that it's not a manifestation of your own
mm-hmm.
thoughts.
Yeah,
Like it is outside of yourself. Like that
yeah,
I don't know how to I don't know I cannot unless you have experienced it. I don't think I can explain it in a way that
yeah.
makes
You
sense.
feel it. It just
But you
feels,
feel
yeah.
it.
And it
You
feels
feel it.
otherworldly, like you mentioned that before. It's just, it's so profound. And I feel this is probably the most, like, this is the one I can connect with the most because I haven't had much lucid dreams. And like, I feel like I'm always on the borderline of like lucid, but like very, very conscious. But it's not often that I'm like lucid and like, in that flow. And so with the guide, I've experienced, guides coming through or just the feeling because anyways, like this feeling of the higher awareness and like the feeling when you wake up, I feel that that's when you really like it. That's the feeling. Like you feel it in the dream, but when you wake up, you're just like, I'm going to have a beautiful day. Today's going to be so amazing. And
Yeah.
I've had that experience with, connecting with animals. I've had it, like I said, with the most recent dreams with Kim Kardashian. I've had that experience. And I've
Mm-hmm.
had it in just like being in certain environments when I've shared about dreams of what I say is like the new earth or just this really
Absolutely.
high vibe living. And it's like that feeling is just like you said, like otherworldly is like the perfect term for that, is what
It
I
really
feel.
is like, with the dream, the other two dream types, there's almost like a blurred line of like they're there but you can kind of feel your own essence, whereas like
Mm-hmm.
these guides, it's something completely different. It's you and me standing in a room together and me knowing that you are you and I am me. That's how it's but it's I can't even, it's so hard to explain. But so they consider these types of um, dream natives, the guide, to be considered like if we were to compare it to a movie character, one of them would be like Yoda.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but do you want to talk about more about your experience with the guides?
I feel like that was like from what I can just remember is, that it's just the feeling. And then also you tend to wake up with like a profound, like, I know I like you feel motivated or inspired or clear, like there is, I think in the book, it mentioned that like, well, I guess in general, it says talking to the dream people, will bring forth really profound healing and guidance. And I feel
Yes.
with the guide interactions, there's no like it's like it's instantaneous,
Yeah.
right? You feel, and with, say with the friend, it's like, and even with the sleepwalker, like I've had my experiences, but it takes a little bit of reflection
Yeah.
and sitting with it for a minute. But with the guide, you wake up with the like the aha moment, right? The
Absolutely.
realization. And so I think that's the biggest thing that the biggest thing I could share is that it's just it's hard to even put into words. Like Jay says,
Yeah.
profound realization.
It's
Yeah.
it's very profound. And I feel like at this point it's like ineffable. It can't really be explained. Like
Yeah.
you can't explain it away.
Yeah.
It's a different
Like
energy.
when if you know, you know. When
If
you
you know, you
experience, you
know.
will
Like
know. You will
I
experience
have a
it.
hard
You will
time trying to
know.
explain it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
So there are a bunch of, oh, go ahead.
no,
Sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was just going to say there are a bunch of comments from Jace on what we've been talking about, but I'll let you continue with your thoughts and then I'll bring that in, as we
Yeah,
like bring it to a close. Yeah.
that sounds good. So I was just going to go into examples of guides that I've encountered.
Mm-hmm.
So a really notable one is one that I had. I believe I did tell this dream because I had talked about how at one point in the dream had like I had been in a bus that was like cut in half. So like we were
Mm-hmm.
exposed to the world and I was like kind of meditating in my dream in the sunlight while I was riding in this vehicle. In that dream, I encountered a set of Siamese twins.
Mm-hmm.
They were male, black ethnicity, and they seemed like they were from like the 1970s. Like I could be
Mm-hmm.
wrong about that because I know that style types do
Like
carry
repeat. Yeah.
throughout history in certain aspects, but I only connected with the brother who was on the right. And he looked me into my eyes, and I could feel almost like a connection between our, I guess, souls or whatever it would be. Like I felt just this strong magnetism and presence. And he smiled at me because we were kind of like passing each other. So I was passing them on the left. So right. Anyway, I was passing them, and the brother who was to the right of me, closest to me, had, as I was approaching, and kind of flamboyantly, had mentioned that they really liked my what I was wearing. And then that was our interaction. And it seems really simple. Like it seems like a simple interaction. Just like at that point, I looked at my clothes and my hands and saw what I was wearing because I don't dress up in my dreams like prior to dreaming, um, and continued on. But it was that presence and magnetism of it, the people being totally out of this world and completely disconnected from myself. And
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could explain it, but I did for this post draw those people.
Mm-hmm.
I did like an advertisement post for tonight's live, and the image is a drawing of who I encountered. So it was just a very interesting experience. But like I said, I've had that type of magnetism and strong presence with birds. I have had that with owls and very large black birds that kind of resemble like a raven. I've had that experience with
Mm-hmm. I
like
remember that.
a passing shooting star. Like that shooting star was sentient, and even though there was no words, there
Mm.
was an instant, and it was
Oh my
like distant,
gosh.
but there was an instant presence and magnetism and sense of overall just a different comforting warm energy. And even the other night, like I had a dream. This was the same dream with the girl I accidentally flipped off. In the beginning, I had focused my attention on these three fish that were in a clear flower vase submerged in a fishbowl. And I connected with them, and they were aware of their situation. They were frantically swimming, and then they all kind of stared upwards. And I knew in that
Oh
moment
my
that they
God.
decided to escape. And I watched them until all three of them escaped the small vase and were able to swim more freely in that larger fish tank. And like the connection, it seems so like simple and silly, but there's some kind of shift in energy when you connect with something that feels like it's otherworldly and not a part of
Mm-hmm.
yourself. I love it. I think it's so interesting.
Yeah, I wonder too, like, so I'm thinking about like this is something that I can just kind of speculate or put out there. And I don't know if you have any thoughts about this or come across anything, but like the difference between, dream natives or dream figures and like what we're speaking about versus like dream symbols. And my theory just now is that, like, when you said sentient, that kind of stood out to me. And I was like, okay, that might be like the difference between like a dream symbol and a dream, so to speak, native, even if they appear as something different, like a shooting star. Like there's
Hmm.
some sort of like emotional communication there, that there's like a message, because like you also, when you mentioned focusing on the fish, you made me think about this dream I had where towards the end of the dream I was focusing in on this dirty diaper in like this barn, and it had the diaper, like it just didn't make any sense, and I was like, why is that like, and I was like really focused on it, and I was like, oh, is that a dream native? But then I was like, it wasn't really, like I was questioning things, like I was having a thought process, but it wasn't like it like bestowed something or like communicated some sort of message aside from it being a symbol, which I still don't understand that. So I think, and that kind of came through. I was like, okay, I feel like the dream figures are more so something of like a sentimental or sentient type of like communication aspects, where like if I couldn't really, I feel like I couldn't go to the diaper and engage, have a conversation, but you could definitely go to a star, a shooting star, just
Yeah,
like
or the
communicate.
fish. I know I could
Or
have
the fish. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah, the
know I could have
fish.
had that interaction with the
Absolutely.
fish. It's
Yeah.
so
So
interesting.
that's really, yeah, that's really cool.
I think that we definitely should have more extensive episodes on each of these types. Excuse me. Because I feel like we can really go down a whole rabbit hole for each of
Oh
them
yeah,
and
definitely.
like really I just deep dive. I feel like that would be really fun.
Yeah, I agree. Awesome. Did you have another one you were going to share, or that
Well,
was that
we're
your?
looking at we're just about at 10. I know
Yeah,
we have
we're
a lot
getting
of
close.
comments. So maybe we should go into the comments and
Sure.
check that out, and then we can do a more extensive video
Yeah,
down
yeah,
the line.
we can do more on this. And definitely if you're watching this, watching the replay, feel free to leave your comments or questions or experiences. If there's something that you want us to go a little bit deeper into, let us know in the comments. We would love to hear what you would like to see and would like us to share a bit on. So I'm just going to look at the comments here because Jace is always amazing at holding it down here,
Thanks,
in the comment
Jace.
section. So let's see. So guides tend to stay hidden most of the time because they want us to do things without direct interaction. They will take forms to either have you notice or follow them, or they will also change. He says when you get them giving you something like, oh yeah. So I think that was in reference probably to what we are saying. Like your guides will give you, some sort of like that profound guidance, that wisdom will come through sometimes through like some sort of teaching or some some like very clear direction. Like when I had the dream about the Vesica Pisces, like the sacred geometry, and it's like,
Oh
oh, if
yeah.
you want to access this higher vibration, which then led to this manifestation practice of drawing the two circles and like putting your desires, like what you want to manifest within the Vesica Pisces. So kind of all of that came forth from the dream that I had. So yeah, I feel when you connect with the guides, like a lot of times you can, just that feeling might heal you in some way. And then also you might get some sort of direct guidance, or, and you might make some sort of inspired action as a result of, engaging with the guide.
Oh, absolutely. I've definitely had both experiences and they both do really important things. But they are definitely different.
Yeah. So he says that I think this was in response to when you mentioned about having, I think it was the show about having the sleeping with the
Oh,
thing in the
the
air.
movie,
Yeah,
yeah.
the movie, yeah. So he says he mentioned that I guess like a part of what you're saying is like it's in like he said it's a network, so they have seen images from dreams using a machine. He said I can't remember it, but it's a fuzzy compare it's fuzzy compared to the dream. Well, they have had two-way communication in dreams. Oh, they've had two-way communication in dreams, and they have tested where a dreamer is dreaming and someone is talking to them. So, oh, I think I know what you're saying. Like they're communicating with the dreamer through possibly like an earpiece. And they're like through whatever like things they have hooked up to them, they can kind of get some sort of imagery, which is crazy to me. Like that's crazy. Like
Hmm.
we are so like humans are just like we're like almost too smart for our own good. Like there's an
Oh,
old
we
school
fly
part of
too close to
me
the sun a lot.
where it's just like it's like the science and mind you people, I'm a science person, astronomy major. Science and spirituality is my thing and really bridging the two, but sometimes I feel like both sides can take it a little too far where just like do we really have to know, like we have to know, because it's like once you know you can't unknow, and then also like I don't know. There's so many avenues I can go with there. And I'm just like, can we just like dream and like let it be,
Yeah.
like
Well,
why does
and
it have to be?
thinking about like that movie, I wish I could remember what it's called. It's like Dream something. But the fact that they literally monetize the dream realm and put
Hmm.
commercials within your dreams, it's something we would absolutely fucking do. Like it's totally within the realm of capitalism and what, whatever they can make money off of. And
Yeah.
it's a slippery slope.
Yeah. Like it's cool to like discover and like, kind of have that background insight on, or like the physical, tangible,
Yeah,
references and proof, so to speak. But at the same time, I feel like it can also water down the experience, or it could be just like you lose the magic when you do some of that stuff. Which there's no shade
absolutely.
again. Like I love science and I
Me as well.
love spirituality. I love when they kind of like when they are, in union.
Me too. Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like I think the biggest thing is like always coming back to your intention. Like, what are we trying to do here? Because I think it's
Yep.
like once we get one thing, and then it's like one thing and one thing and one thing, and next thing you know, like it's like I don't know. It's like you said, we're flying very close to the sun at times. I feel like that's a
Exactly.
perfect way to say it.
Hmm.
Um, but
Dream
yeah, and then Jace,
scenario.
yeah,
Sorry,
right.
the movie
What'd you
Dream
say?
Scenario
Oh, that's
with
the name
Nick
of it.
Cage.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna have to check that out. But yeah, and Jace goes on to talk about guides and how they can, the speculations of how they could be your higher self coming through and
Hmm.
showing up in imagery. And then also, I was gonna say, yeah, how your guides can kind of mask themselves, like guise themselves as other things
Yep.
or other dream people, which we talked about. Yeah, so we're kind of all on the same page with this. There's so many different, varieties is what I like that Robert Wagner said, right? The variety of dream figures, dream natives. There's so many different ways that these figures show up in your dream. And I think it's unique to everyone because our psyches are
Absolutely.
all unique. And so the best way to learn more is just to explore your own dream space and make that intention to connect with them. And if you make that intention in your waking life and you're kind of making the moves and being very like proactive with like lucid dreaming, it will be so easy. And I will say that from my own experience, because that was what really fascinated. And I think that eagerness and that excitement, I was like, I'm lucid. Okay, here's that person. I'm going to talk to them. And then that kind of changed the game of things for me with people showing up in my dream. But yeah, I think this is definitely a topic that we can go deeper and deeper and deeper. There's so many layers to this conversation.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. And I am excited to explore deeper because I mean, I know that you have a dream journal, I have a dream journal, and to look back at the dreams that we had and kind of see where we were with the different types of dream natives and what, what that brings back would also be interesting to discuss.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And one last thing here that Jace is saying is that, so he says the math guy who did formulas from seeing his goddess showing him the formulas on a blood wall. I have to look into that. I haven't heard about that. This has actually happened though. So he said, and then he said, yeah, but it's happening this day. And then sometimes ignorance is bliss. Yeah. So I definitely
Yeah.
like, I see like now, like exploring the dream space, I really understand how people come up with, books,
Oh yeah.
movies, thank you, Alexis, art, beautiful art, and just so many things. I'm like, oh my goodness. Yeah. This is like, when you're like, how did they come up with that? It's like, it could have been a dream. Like there's so many, yeah,
Oh my
there's so
God.
much going
Yeah.
on there.
It's absolutely it's infinite. It's infinite. There's so much you can take from your own unconscious, and we see so much in our day to day that reflects that. The whole
Yeah.
thing is just so interesting. I just love it.
Yeah. Awesome. So before we get off, I just want to check in with you to see how it's going with your dream sachet. Like, how have your dreams been since you freshen it up, and what's going on with that whole situation?
So I definitely noticed a an increase in my lucidity length, I believe, and my sharpness. But I do have to say that it was a little difficult to really test it out since this weekend and this last week I have been so busy also, and that kind of throws off my game a bit. But I feel like I'm back on track. I feel like things are slowing down a bit and I'm able to really hone in more. Um, and I'm satisfied.
Nice. Yeah,
What about you?
I've had some really good experiences with it. At least the first 2 weeks. Yeah, because it's been 2 weeks now since we did that. So the
For sure,
first
yeah.
week was just like great. Like I would say honestly, up until a few days ago, which makes sense because it kind of lines up with my cycle as far as like when I start having like a lot of dreams, and like I wasn't having any anxious dreams since then up until like 2 days ago.
Hmm.
And so my dreams, though, I recall very shortly after we made the dream sachets, they were very like enlightening in a way. There was a lot of like, it wasn't like I was connecting with a guide or anything, and I haven't had any lucid experiences, like completely lucid. But I remember waking up and it's like, oh, that thing, like so many things were coming together. It's like, okay, I feel a directive here. This makes sense. Like I felt like I was getting guidance, which is something that was a part of my intention. So that really came forth. And so now being here in Maryland, not in my home, but at my mom's home, I did bring it with me. And I don't, it's just, again, like you were saying, it's been so busy and everything where I haven't really been able to really connect with it, or I haven't felt that like deep, really restful sleep that I need. And
Yeah.
so I know when I do go home, my plan is to freshen it up. So,
Yes.
yeah, so maybe you and I, it doesn't have to be live, but maybe we'll do something together where we can kind of reactivate that. Maybe with the new moon in Cancer, that would be like
Ooh,
really good.
yes.
If you're Scorpio rising, the Cancer new moon will be in the ninth house, which is our house of dreams. So that's perfect. I think actually, Alexis, you and I should definitely do something
I think we should
to freshen that up.
absolutely do something. Yeah,
So that would be perfect.
absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I feel really good with this chat. I don't know if there's anything that you want to share with us, but I
I
feel
just want
pretty
to
good.
remind everyone that we do have the Dream Forum on Urania's website. And if you are having dreams and you want to share them, please, 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 put that in to the forum. And if you want, we can, talk about them on our next live and go deeper into that. But I just wanted to remind everyone about the forum. It is a really cool
Absolutely.
place to share.
Yeah. It's so much fun and to just like put it there and like, we'll all look at it and, share and definitely like it. And hopefully, with your permission, we can share, on one of our live streams. Also, if there's, again, I want to just repeat, if there's a topic about dreams, you want us to chat about, definitely you can just comment that on one of these videos and we'll be happy to share that and maybe make a live stream around that topic or question that you might have.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So I'm ready to go to sleep. I feel like my
Too.
eyes are getting very heavy.
Me too.
But yeah, thank you everyone for being here.
Thank
Thanks,
you
Jace,
so
for holding it
much.
down in the chat. Thank you for those of you watching live in the replay. Of course, if you like this video, please like the video, please subscribe so you can get notified when we do go live and all of the things. So everyone have a beautiful evening and sweet dreams.
Sweet dreams.
All right. We are